Yeah, maybe talk about that for a second, because I feel like a lot of the people who are out there writing songs, it's, I guess maybe the contrast between, the relationship you have with Harry and Tom is Kid Harpoon. His name is Tom.
Yeah, Tom. Yeah, his name's Tom.
The three of you have spent so much time together. Can you talk about the difference between that and then, okay, you're Tyler Johnson, your publisher or manager is setting you up with a write with some new artist next week. You go in for a day or maybe 2 days, or I don't know how you set it up at this point, but they seem like very different. They're obviously very different relationships.
Totally.
You meet someone at noon, you
100%.
write a hit song by 5. That's the intent essentially. Versus when you get together with Harry and Tom, you actually have lots of time. I don't know.
Of course.
How do you set those things up these days?
I think maybe for me, and I can't speak for other things, but my goal is to just always be on the trajectory of getting to like that level of a relationship, which for me didn't, like Tom and Harry and that team, I had this with Cam when we kind of started like way back in the day writing stuff. And I just am more familiar with that. So for me, the goal, and one of the only kind of like things that I can really say that I have in my mind when I'm thinking about connecting is connecting with artists and connecting with co-writers, is trying to get to a place of trust and these kind of things where there can be mistakes and there can be missteps, and you've worked through that and then you've gone to the other side and then you've made something great. Or, you make something great together right off the bat, but then you hit some dry patch and then you make another thing great. I think if you make something great right off the bat and there's not trust and there's not camaraderie, I think that's fantastic. And I think that's like very fortunate, like very proud of whoever it is that's able to pull it off. But I do think, to me, that's probabilistically much lower than getting past uncomfortable times with creatives and finding your way into a true relationship with them. So for me, I'm always on that goal. So if I'm set up to do 2 days with someone, then it's just the relationship I would hope would just grow, or be something that we recognize isn't meant to grow, or we get lucky. Like, of course, everybody wants to get lucky and nail it. Okay, we went in 2 days and did the thing, but bar that happening, the goal is either to recognize that we're not meant to really collaborate together and let it go, or continue to build the relationship through to get to a point where there is trust that doesn't just, kind of wilt underneath the minorest amount of disappointment. So,
oh man, there's so many good things that you said in there. There's a couple ways to go with it, because I love this topic. There's the early on when I was running around doing the blind date 1 day songwriting sessions over and over and over, doing the reps when I was starting out. I heard somebody say something about the second song is always the best, which is not literally true, but this idea that
right.
you gotta feel each other out for a while and make something, and then resolve it together by going, either saying it out loud or just going, cool, that's fine, let's go to the next thing, and understanding like that wasn't that good, but we're okay and we can keep trying, and we just did something that didn't quite work and we got through that together. And that's a huge trust builder. My version of it is I often say to young artists and writers, like, the studio here, this is the place to make mistakes and have your voice break and do a suggested dumb lyric and all that. Like, this is where all of this stays. This is for us to do whatever we want, especially as an artist. Like, this is for you to experiment and do all the things that you don't have to play your manager or your publisher or your friends, or we can delete the files after. Like, this is the place to go make mistakes and try things. And it's huge in building trust, because, and that's the thing that's so fascinating about this Ed Sheeran documentary, which I've talked about a number of times, is he has his cousin who's been his friend for 15 years, who's always been around. So he has that comfort, because otherwise, like, if you put a camera in, it's one thing to have a voice note that's just for you guys, but like an actual documentary in the middle of a songwriting session there's no way you can like try things out and make those sort of mistakes. It'd just be insane.
Yeah. I definitely think when I think about kind of doing the like dating thing and like getting like going out and finding things, I do think that's why dating's such a good, reference for it. Cause it's like, you are looking for some ride or die people. And I also don't think it has to be, it's not a necessary time frame thing. You can really get close and have trust quickly. It's just that for me, I don't think that there's a coincidence that some of for me in my songwriting, things got the most successful when I was in a team like that. I don't think that's, I don't think it's the whole story for everyone I don't think that wraps up everything in a nice bow now, and everyone should just do that. But I don't think that it's a coincidence for me that that's kind of how it happened, because it's really, it makes a lot of sense to me, that is an environment that breeds creativity. So, did we have any
I'll just say one more thing. I like what you said about, and I imagine it's the case with Harry, with Cam, with a lot of other things, where you do something great and then you make a lot of things that aren't great for a while sometimes, and that's not just okay, but actually an important part of the process. Like getting out a bunch of ideas and feeling free to make things that aren't great, and then knowing that you've done it before, you'll do it again, in terms of just things that make you feel emotionally connected or make the artist feel connected or whatever. Like some of my best collaborators, I'll do 5 days in a row with them and get one song on the last day, or get nothing. And not only is that okay, but like, that's what you're supposed to do. That's part of getting reps, is going through finishing ideas that you feel like are great in the moment, and you look back and you're like, none of these things were good. But that's really okay. I imagine that's a big part of your long-term relationships with some of these collaborators.
It's tricky because it's never not uncomfortable. It's always a horrible feeling to not be nailing it. And I think that's the thing, is you're also not nailing it with people who are kind of not like really someone with a lot of trust. And that's when it kind of even escalates. And that's why this industry can feel very like soul sucking, I think, at times for people, is because you're like, wow, that was awkward, like that whole interaction. And because it does suck to not nail it. I think if all of us could, as creatives, we would just be like, all right, Genie, I got my wish. Every time I walk in, I nail it. It's like, we would love that kind of just constant, just perfection. And just because literally no one likes that feeling. There's no way.
It's the worst
when it's
feeling.
Just like, when everyone's just like, is this going horribly? And you're just like, I think this is going horribly. And I think for me, like, being in a position where it's like, all right, well, that's fine. And even being able to do that with strangers, I think is important. And I think that if they're like, yeah, this is fine, and you really work through that, I think you can build a relationship that's powerful. And, but I do think that finding collaborators that you trust, that you would want to hang out with, not just maybe make music, those kind of things, and trust creatively. It's not just trust and I think it goes both ways, both trust creatively and trust like their integrity and who they are as people. I think all of that's very important.
Thanks for watching. Just a reminder, all of this content is free. There's no secret knowledge here. There's no Patreon. We don't read ads. We don't have sponsors. We're just trying to build a knowledge base. All that we ask in return is that you share it with somebody. Thanks so much.